Greetings. My name is Professor Kenneth Ngure. I'm the Dean School of Public Health at Jomo Kenyatta University, Nairobi, Kenya. I'm also an IAS Governing Council member. IAS is International AIDS Society that has organized this meeting or this conference. And this conference is very important. It's happening in Tanzania for the first time. And it's coming in after we've had COVID for a long time, where we were not able to meet face-to-face. But we are now able to meet face-to-face, exchange ideas. We have close to 100 people from Tanzania and an additional number from the region. And we are here to brainstorm on ideas to tackle the HIV pandemic. I want to say that, for example, in Tanzania has made very good progress, and that's probably why we are also here for this meeting, has made very good progress in both HIV prevention, treatment, and in the areas of stigma. But the momentum needs to be maintained. And when we had COVID, we were not able to meet as often. But now we are actually able to meet, brainstorm, and physical meetings, as you are well aware, are very helpful, because then we're able to sort of exchange new ideas to tackle the HIV pandemic. The International AIDS Society, probably that's what I should also highlight, is composed of close to 15,000 members from 170 countries, and organizes these kind of workshops that come to talk about HIV, around like currently we're talking about treatment, we are talking about prevention, we are talking about ways to minimize stigma, and when we hear from people, we are able to tackle these issues. And sort of within International AIDS Society, these activities are mainly, these kind of meetings are tackled from within the IAS Educational Fund. One of the key highlights of this meeting that we had here today and yesterday was we were able to present and share findings from the largest HIV meeting known as the AIDS 2022, which happened in Montreal. Because many people from Tanzania were not able to come for that meeting, we were able to highlight key findings, like for example, on the City of Hope patient who was cured of HIV through stem cell transplant or bone marrow transport, what other people would call bone marrow transplant. We were able to talk about additional studies, for example, one known as doxy-PEP, meaning that the use of antibiotics after people have had unprotected sex to reduce the risk of sexually transmitted infections acquisition. And then we also are able to highlight the studies that have continued to support the movement known as U equals U, that is undetectable is equals to untransmittable, because when people do not have an undetectable virus, they cannot transmit HIV. That's a key potential message that needs to be talked about, need to be emphasized, because then that echoes that or emphasizes that when you use HIV treatment, it's not only good for the person who has HIV, but it's also good for those who do not, because it reduces the risk of HIV transmission. And that's one of the key messages that was also highlighted in the AIDS 2022, that health providers in Tanzania, researchers, policymakers need to hear. We were also able to highlight another key finding from AIDS 2022, which is on a new HIV prevention method known as cabotegravir injection, which is an injection of an antiviral drug to reduce the risk of HIV acquisition, which was shown to be superior to oral PrEP. I believe many people know about oral PrEP, which is a drug taken every day. But this is an injection which provides an additional measure for HIV prevention, meaning that now we should be able to have the prevention toolbox is expanding. And when we think about the prevention toolbox, we have biomedical strategies and non-biomedical. Biomedical strategies now include oral PrEP, they include the dapivirine vaginal ring, and they include now the cabotegravir injectable. And this injectable is going to be given around every 2 months. But what was also discussed, because this injectable is going to be, currently it's expensive, there was a lot of talk of giving patents and making generics available in the next couple of years. This message is important for sub-Saharan countries, including Tanzania, so that as they revise guidelines, they start including these new HIV prevention methods. to be handled within the new guidelines. So we were able to highlight those findings, and the members of, especially people from Tanzania, appreciated, because many of them were not able to attend the meeting. We were also reminded that globally, about 650,000 people die of HIV every year. That means one person per minute. And those people die because of what we call advanced disease, what used to be called initially as AIDS, but now we are calling it advanced disease. And the reasons why they die is because of things known as opportunistic infections, such as tuberculosis, cryptococcal meningitis. And the reason why we also highlighted that, because that is also an important message for Tanzanian and for people in the region to know, so that as they program, they need to remember that they need to also, as you're programming for HIV, they also need to program for opportunistic infections. And what we have seen for those people who die of advanced disease, most of them will have stopped treatment. So another take-home message from this workshop, and when we encouraged people to know, is that it is good for people to maintain, to continue taking treatment. Once you stop and restart, then you are at the risk of getting into advanced disease, what used to be called as AIDS. So those were some of the key messages that we also discussed. The other thing is, as Tanzania has made very good progress in HIV, the number of new cases, the cases have continued decreasing, but not equally in all populations. Some of the populations at risk, and this is a key message that probably we need to take home, is among adolescent girls and young women, where we continue to see an increase in number of HIV cases. And it's not only in Tanzania, even in Kenya and many countries in sub-Saharan Africa, and also among key populations. So there is need to continue looking for strategies that we can be able to implement in these populations, so that they can be able to prevent HIV. One of the challenges that has faced these populations includes stigma and discrimination. And we even had, because we have had some of the key population and adolescent girls in our meetings, they are also talking about the stigma they face when they go to seek for treatment, which it becomes a barrier for them either to get tested, to initiate treatment, or to continue on treatment. So those are some of the populations that face a real challenge, and I would want to encourage Tanzania and other countries in the region to continue focusing on these populations, key populations, and addressing girls and young women. Because if we do not treat these populations with respect, then they will not come to our facilities. If we don't come to our facilities, then the HIV, the number of new cases is going to continue increasing, and this will keep feeding into the general population. Probably the other thing that I would want to highlight is I would also want to highlight about the role of IAS. As I said earlier, the IAS is a membership of organization with about 15,000 members. These are health providers, such as doctors, nurses, clinicians. It also has researchers, it has policy makers, it has community advocates. All those meet in two big meetings. One of them is known as AIDS, happens every 2 years, like what happened in Montreal, usually with attendances of more than 10,000. Then they also have a scientific conference, which is a smaller conference. Next year is going to happen in Melbourne, usually of about 6,000 people, where people come and discuss the latest or breaking news, the latest science. And I would also to encourage East Africans and Sub-Saharan African country scientists and policymakers to continue attending those kind of meetings, because that's where you get the latest cutting-edge science.